What's going on? It's Trending Story. If it's your first time here and you wanna find new fact that'll definitely make you smarter and more well informed, make sure to subscribe and active the notifications bell so you don't miss anything.
Scuba diving provides the opportunity to experience wildlife in their own habitat and see things you wouldn't be able to otherwise. But what happens when you're in their territory? For one unsuspecting diver, he'd never forget this experience. When one fateful day under the water, his dive was interrupted in the most unexpected way. Divers never know what they'll encounter down below. Usually they know that in dive sites they're likely to see different types of coral, fish, and various other underwater animals. Gary was hoping to encounter some wildlife, but him and his dive buddies were flabbergasted when a couple of seals appeared out of nowhere. When diving, you're taught not to disturb the animals in their natural habitat. So when the seals approached, the divers tried to remain calm. Seals are known for being inquisitive, but also can be aggressive to humans they haven't seen before. The divers thought to take their camera out to capture the animals as they got closer. Of course, no two dives were the same, and you never know what you might be able to capture at the bottom of the water. Usually, Gary was the one who did most of the filming. However, on this particular day, it was his friend who was in charge of the camera when the seal showed up. It was a good thing, too, because the result was some incredible footage that would end up with millions of views on YouTube. When the divers first saw the cute seals, Gary's friend quickly took the camera. As the seals approached them, they realized that they were only babies. The seals started to circle the divers. They were inquisitive and wanted to figure out these strange two-legged creatures who'd just appeared in their underwater habitat. Everyone was overcome by an immediate trepidation. They hadn't experienced this before on a dive, and they were avid divers. Seals really are just like big water dogs. Just take a gander at their loving eyes and their cute whiskers. They also possess a similar inquisitiveness that most friendly dogs have. So it was no surprise that the seals Gary and his friends encountered were very curious as to what they were doing. The seals continued to circle and move closer to the two divers. But what would happen next? Gary was surprised that the seals were getting to such close proximity to him. Traditionally, wild seals were very cautious and not the easiest animals to get on your side. He was totally dumbfounded that the underwater pups were getting this close. Luckily, his friend would get the entire chance encounter for them to watch over and over again, and the rest of the world. What a beautiful one at that. As the seals approached, they decided to get up close and personal with Gary like curious little puppies. Soon, one of the seals was playfully nibbling at his gloved hand. What's more, this was only a sign of what he had in store. Divers who come into contact with seals usually must swim with the seals for several days in order to gain their trust. Only then is it safe for them to get close to the humans. So this was definitely a risky situation. In Gary's case, the animals didn't want to leave him alone and were play fighting with him almost instantly. It was an incredibly lucky encounter. In many other cases, a seal getting this close as fast as it did would definitely be a sign of aggression. On land, seals are adorable but clumsy creatures. They waddle around on their flippers awkwardly while hopping up on rocks, obstacles, and are even known to clamber up onto the backs of boats. However, in the water they swim gracefully. They can swim at high speeds, but can turn at any moment, so you have to be careful. After they're born, seals spend about 4 months with their mothers before going out on their own. Perhaps this sweet little guy was simply looking for a new friend when he approached Gary. One of the seal pups decided to break protocol and approached Gary almost immediately. It swam directly up to his dive mask and continued to size him up. Eventually, Gary's friend managed to capture it on film. What the camera saw was that this particular seal didn't let boundaries get in the way of his curiosity. And Gary would soon find this out. You'll never guess what happened next. The little seal was starting to get attached to Gary and very overexcited. It was swimming circles around the divers, but took a particular liking to Gary. The seal would rub its nose on Gary's mask before making another circle around the group of divers. Gary was amazed at his luck. These are experiences for divers that don't happen all the time, and when they do, you never forget. This was definitely something that the diver would remember forever. The seal continued to move in and out of the group, growing more and more comfortable with Gary. Finally, the seal seemed to want to make the meeting official. It placed its flipper on top of Gary's hand as if to shake it. With the formal greeting out of the way, the seal continued the encounter and started nibbling at Gary's gloved hands. It would seem that the activities were just getting started. Gary simply couldn't swim away now. There was a second seal circling the group too. It began to come in and nibble at Gary's legs, just as the seal was doing to his hands. It was as if it was just passing the time until it got the opportunity to shake hands with Gary too. Gary would later comment that he was aware there were multiple seals in the water. They were buzzing in and out of their circle, but he was focusing on the friendly little guy who was nibbling at his gloves. Gary was an experienced diver, but even he would admit that he'd never experienced anything like what was happening with the seal. The YouTube video would show that the second seal was swimming in close, trying to join his companion and new friend. However, it would seem that Gary was occupied with the first animal, as if he didn't notice the other seal. Besides, the first seal wasn't done playing with Gary. Soon, Gary would find himself surrounded by loving seals. Gary and the seal became friends almost immediately. They shook hands with each other and bumped each other's noses, which prompted the seal to want more. So, just like he would a dog, Gary started scratching the seal on its belly. After a few minutes of belly rubbing, Gary stopped. But the seal was not finished, and it decided to continue patting Gary's hand with its flipper in excitement. From this photo, it looks like the seal was smiling and having a whale of a time. Just like a lovable puppy, rolling over on its back again and again, not getting bored. And it even prompted Gary to rub its belly. The baby seal had more surprises up its fin, it would seem. Gary was in for one very soon. Perhaps the seal was desperate for some interaction, but it was as if they had known each other for years. Then the hand nibbling began. The seal would move in and give Gary's gloved hand a gentle nibble. Seals have very sharp teeth that are actually capable of puncturing wetsuits and gloves. After the encounter, Gary and his diving buddy posted the video they'd recorded to YouTube. You can imagine that it became a sensation. It's clear that the seal Gary encountered lived up to its reputation as a lovable sea puppy. We know Gary would like another opportunity to visit. We're certain that divers all over the world would like to share a similar experience, us included. Focusing on environmental responsibility and animal wellness will ensure that everyone continues to get those opportunities in the future. We hope to have the loving seals with us for years and years to come. Thanks for watching. Please like and share the video in social networks. We'll be right back to you as fast as we can.